Dr. Olivia Ward leaned over the side of her small research boat, watching the sonar equipment with growing curiosity. For the third time that day, she had detected an unusual signal from the deep waters of the Pacific Ocean. Something large was moving down there, something that didn't match any known whale or submarine patterns. "Are you seeing this, Ben?" She called to her research assistant, who was adjusting equipment on the deck. Ben frowned at the screen. "That can't be right. Whatever it is, it's massive and moving fast." Olivia brushed a strand of brown hair from her face, squinting at the horizon. The weather had been perfect all morning. Sunny skies, calm waters, ideal for their deep-sea creature research. But now dark clouds gathered in the distance, and the water around their vessel had begun to churn. "I think we should head back," Ben suggested, looking nervously at the changing conditions. Before Olivia could respond, their boat suddenly lurched. The water around them bubbled and foamed as if boiling. Then, rising from the depths like a mountain breaking the surface, an enormous metal structure emerged. "Oh my God," Olivia whispered, stumbling backward. The object was clearly artificial, a massive ship with sleek, silver-gray surfaces marked with symbols unlike any human language. It dwarfed their research vessel, casting it in shadow as water cascaded from its rising form. Ben froze, camera in hand. "Is that?" "It's not one of ours," Olivia said, her scientific mind racing to process what her eyes were seeing. A piercing sound cut through the air, and a section of the massive ship began to open. Olivia clutched the railing as their boat rocked in the waves. A beam of blue light shot from the opening, stopping just above their deck. Within the light, a figure materialized. The being stood nearly 7 feet tall with gray-green skin that appeared scaly in the sunlight. Its 4 eyes, 2 large ones centered on its face, and 2 smaller ones on the sides, blinked independently. When it spoke, its mouth didn't move. Instead, the words echoed inside Olivia's head. "I am Commander Zax Tull of the Vraxian Empire. Your planet is now under our jurisdiction. Surrender immediately or face consequences." Olivia stepped forward despite her trembling legs. "We're just researchers. We don't have the authority to surrender anything." The alien commander's eyes narrowed. "Then you will escort us to your leaders." From below deck, a scratching sound and a small whine caught Olivia's attention. In all the chaos, she had forgotten about Pancake, her therapy coordinator who accompanied her on research trips to help with her anxiety. Before she could react, the small cabin door, which hadn't been properly latched, swung open. Pancake trotted out, tail wagging happily as he surveyed the strange situation. Commander Zax Tull's reaction was immediate and shocking. All 4 eyes widened in what could only be described as terror. He stumbled backward in the beam of light, nearly falling. "The beast! They've unleashed the beast!" he shouted telepathically, his mental voice now tinged with panic. Pancake, completely oblivious to the alien's reaction, sat down and tilted his head curiously, his stubby tail still wagging. "Retreat. Emergency withdrawal," Commander Zax Tull commanded to unseen crew members. "Wait," Olivia said in confusion. "You mean this? This is just Pancake, my dog." The alien commander pointed a trembling, 4-fingered hand at the Corgi. "Your weapon has been noted, humans. This aggression will not stand." His voice in her mind sounded genuinely afraid. "We will return with appropriate countermeasures." The light beam quickly retracted, taking the alien with it. The massive ship began to sink back into the ocean, creating huge waves that rocked their small vessel dangerously. As the waters finally calmed, Olivia and Ben stared at each other in disbelief, then looked down at Pancake, who was now sniffing around the deck as if nothing unusual had happened. Did an alien invasion just get scared off by a Corgi? Ben finally asked. Olivia knelt to pet Pancake, her mind racing with implications. "I think we need to contact someone about this." Now, thousands of light years away, aboard the Vraxian command ship now hidden in the depths of Earth's ocean, Commander Zax Tull paced nervously. His second in command, Officer Krell, watched with concern as the commander's scales flashed colors indicating extreme distress. "The humans have them," Zaxtol said, his voice shaking. "They have the Devourers." Krell approached cautiously. "Commander, are you certain? The Devourers are just stories from our ancient past. I saw one with my own eyes." Zaxtol slammed his fist against the ship's wall. "Exactly as described in our historical records. The pointed ears, the short legs, the deceptively innocent eyes. They've somehow tamed the very beasts that nearly drove our ancestors to extinction." Across the galaxy, every Vraxian child grew up learning about the Great Persecution. Long ago, before their species had developed advanced technology, the Vraxians had shared their homeworld with predators known as the Kurnath, creatures remarkably similar to Earth's canines. These predators had hunted Vraxians relentlessly, driving them into caves and forcing them to develop tools and weapons simply to survive. The genetic memory of this ancient trauma remained embedded in their species' collective consciousness, a primal fear they could never fully shake. Officer Krell pulled up historical images on the ship's display. The resemblance between the creature their commander had encountered and the ancient predators was undeniable. How could humans possibly control such monsters? Krell wondered aloud. "That's what we must discover," said Zaxtol. "Send stealth probes to gather more information before we contact their leaders again." Back on Earth, Olivia's research boat sped toward shore. She had already made 3 phone calls, one to her university department head, one to the Coast Guard, and one to a number given to researchers specifically for reporting unusual oceanic phenomena. Ben sat across from her, still looking dazed. They were terrified of Pancake. Absolutely terrified. Pancake, now curled up in Olivia's lap, snoozed peacefully, unaware of his newfound importance. "It doesn't make sense," Olivia said, stroking the corgi's fur. "An advanced alien species scared of a 30-pound dog." When they reached shore, they were met by government officials who escorted them directly to a hastily assembled meeting at a nearby military base. To Olivia's surprise, they asked her to bring Pancake. In a conference room filled with military personnel and scientists, Olivia recounted her experience, while experts analyzed her boat's sonar recordings and Ben's photographs. "Dr. Ward," said a stern-looking woman who had introduced herself only as Agent Rivera, "you're suggesting these aliens have a specific fear of dogs." "I know how it sounds," Olivia replied, "but you didn't see how the commander reacted. It wasn't just surprise, it was terror." A biologist named Dr. Hayes spoke up. "Many species have instinctive fears based on evolutionary pressures. Humans fear snakes and spiders even without prior exposure. Perhaps on their world, they faced predators similar to our canines." Agent Rivera nodded thoughtfully. "If that's true, we may have stumbled onto an unexpected advantage." As they discussed implications, a junior officer burst into the room. "Ma'am, we're detecting multiple small objects entering Earth's atmosphere. They appear to be unmanned probes." On screens around the room, radar tracked dozens of tiny craft spreading across the globe. "They're gathering intelligence," Agent Rivera said, "and we need to decide quickly how to respond when they return." Olivia looked down at Pancake, who had awakened and was now happily accepting treats from one of the scientists. "I think," she said slowly, "we should be very careful about what we tell them about our beasts." On the Vraxian ship, the first images from the probes began to appear on screens. Commander Zaxtol's 4 eyes widened in horror as he saw not just one type of devourer but hundreds, dogs of every breed and size, in homes, parks, and streets across the planet. "By the ancestors," he whispered, "the humans have an army of them." 48 hours after first contact, the United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from every major world power gathered in New York, their faces grim as they reviewed the evidence of alien presence on Earth. "The probes have been monitoring our cities for 2 days now," General Martinez explained, pointing to a map showing the spread of alien surveillance devices. "They seem particularly interested in areas with high concentrations of dogs." In the back of the room, Olivia shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Since the encounter, she had been thrust into the center of an international crisis. Pancake sat quietly at her feet, his leash held tightly in her hand. "Dr. Ward," called the Secretary General, "could you please share your observations once more for those who have just joined us?" As Olivia repeated her story, a tall man with a military haircut entered the room, followed by a large German shepherd. The dog moved with precision, staying perfectly at the man's side. "Major Greg Patterson, U.S. Army K-9 Unit," Agent Rivera introduced him, "one of our most experienced handlers." Major Patterson nodded respectfully. "This is Apollo. He's trained in search and rescue, threat detection, and tactical operations." The Secretary General glanced at Apollo, then back to the screens showing the alien probes. "So our unexpected advantages, dogs." "It appears so," Agent Rivera confirmed. "The alien surveillance patterns suggest an almost obsessive focus on canines. Their probes have been observed following dog walkers, hovering near dog parks, and scanning pet stores." A Russian diplomat leaned forward. "And we are certain they see these animals as weapons, not simply as curiosities." Based on Commander Zach Stoll's reaction to Dr. Ward's corgi, they seem to view them as serious threats, Agent Rivera replied, "which gives us a diplomatic edge we never expected." Major Patterson knelt beside Apollo, who remained perfectly still despite the tension in the room. "I've trained military dogs for 15 years. They're intelligent, loyal, and can be intimidating. But they're not interplanetary weapons." "To us, no," said a British representative. "But perception is everything in diplomacy. If these Vraxians believe dogs are dangerous, perhaps we should allow that misconception to continue." The room filled with murmurs, some of agreement, others of concern. "Are we seriously considering using a false threat to negotiate with an advanced alien species?" asked a Japanese diplomat. "What happens when they discover the truth?" Before anyone could answer, an aide rushed in. "They're back. The main ship has resurfaced in international waters. They're broadcasting a message worldwide." On the central screen, Commander Zach Stoll appeared. His voice echoed through the UN chamber as it did in homes and devices across the planet. "People of Earth, our initial survey of your world is complete. We demand representatives meet with us in orbit to discuss terms of your planet's integration into the Vraxian sphere. You have 12 Earth hours to respond. Any display of your biological weapons will be considered an act of war." The transmission ended, leaving the room in silence. Finally, the Secretary General spoke. "We need a delegation, one that can represent Earth's interests while maintaining our apparent advantage." All eyes turned to Olivia, then to Major Patterson and Apollo. "You want us to go?" Olivia asked, her voice small in the large chamber. "You've had direct contact," Agent Rivera said, "and Major Patterson is our foremost expert on working with these weapons the aliens seem to fear." A Chinese diplomat raised a hand. "But if the dogs are brought to the meeting, won't it appear we're threatening them?" "Not necessarily," said Ambassador Natalie Summers, who had been quiet until now. "We position it as bringing our security forces, as is customary for high-level diplomatic meetings. We don't threaten, but we don't correct their misunderstanding either." Major Patterson looked down at Apollo, then at Pancake. "So our first diplomatic mission to alien visitors will hinge on 2 dogs and a bluff." "Not just any bluff," said the Secretary General. "Perhaps the most important one in human history." In the depths of the ocean, Commander Zach Stoll watched Earth's response come in, unaware that the humans were preparing to use his deepest fear against him. The orbital platform chosen for the meeting floated 200 miles above Earth. It had been a science station, quickly converted for diplomatic purposes. Ambassador Summers led the Earth delegation, with Olivia, Major Patterson, 3 international security experts, and a linguist named Dr. Frank Larson completing the team. Apollo sat calmly beside Major Patterson as they waited in the station's main conference room. Pancake, less disciplined but equally important, stayed close to Olivia, occasionally wagging his tail at passing crew members. "Remember," Ambassador Summers reminded them, "we don't threaten with the dogs, but we don't hide them either. Let the Vraxians draw their own conclusions." Olivia nodded nervously, adjusting Pancake's special space-safe harness. The past week had been a blur of briefings and crash courses in diplomacy. She was a marine biologist, not a diplomat, but her unexpected role in first contact had made her presence essential. "Alien ship approaching docking bay," announced the station's commander through the intercom. "Stand by for arrival." Major Patterson gave Apollo a hand signal, and the German Shepherd moved to a position slightly behind him, but still visible. Olivia did the same with Pancake, though the Corgi seemed more interested in the strange new environment than in following protocol. The airlock doors slid open. Commander Zax Toll entered first, flanked by 2 Vraxian officers. All 3 froze momentarily upon seeing the dogs, their scale colors shifting rapidly. But the real surprise came next. Behind the Vraxians entered 3 entirely different alien beings. These were taller, with blue-tinted skin and 4 arms each. They wore elaborate uniforms marked with symbols that appeared to denote high rank. "I am Ambassador Summers of Earth." Natalie stepped forward, keeping her voice steady. "We welcome all delegations to this neutral meeting ground." One of the blue aliens moved forward. "I am High Counselor Trelvox of the Galactic Confederation. The Vraxians have requested our presence as mediators in this first contact scenario." The Earth delegation exchanged glances. No one had mentioned a Galactic Confederation. Commander Zax Toll kept his distance, eyes fixed on Apollo and Pancake. "These humans bring their biological weapons to a peace meeting. This confirms our intelligence about their aggressive nature." High Counselor Trelvox turned his elongated head toward the dogs. "These are the weapons you reported. They appear to be domesticated companion species. Do not be deceived by their appearance," Zax Toll hissed. "On their world, these creatures run in massive packs. Our probes have observed them everywhere, integrated into human society as a constant defense force." The High Counselor approached cautiously. Pancake wagged his tail, straining against his leash toward the new visitor. Apollo remained perfectly still, watching the alien but showing no aggression. "Fascinating," Trelvox said, kneeling to examine Pancake from a safe distance. "In all my travels across 17 solar systems, I've rarely seen a species that resembles the ancient predators." "You know of them?" Zax Toll asked, surprised. "Indeed. Similar creatures evolved on many worlds, but typically died out during planetary development phases. Earth appears to be one of the rare exceptions where they not only survived but formed a symbiotic relationship with the dominant species." Ambassador Summers stepped forward carefully. "High Counselor, we're happy to discuss our relationship with these animals as part of cultural exchange. But first, perhaps we should address the Vraxian Empire's intentions toward Earth." Trelvox stood, all 4 arms gesturing in what appeared to be a formal manner. "Yes, the Confederation has protocols for incorporating new worlds into the galactic community. The Vraxians' unilateral approach was premature." Commander Zax Toll's scales darkened. "We discovered this world. Their weapons pose a threat to Vraxian security." "Perhaps," said Trelvox, "but premature conclusions benefit no one." He turned to the Earth delegation. "Would you permit us to study these creatures? Our xenobiologists would be most interested." Before Ambassador Summers could answer, Pancake yawned loudly, flopped onto his back, and wiggled, clearly requesting a belly rub. Several of the aliens gasped. "Is it attacking?" one Vraxian officer whispered nervously. Olivia couldn't help but smile. "No, he just wants attention." "Most unusual," said High Counselor Trelvox. "It seems there is much for us all to learn from each other." While negotiations continued on the orbital platform, a sleek ship entered Earth's atmosphere undetected. Unlike the bulky Vraxian vessels or the elegant craft of the Confederation, this ship was designed for stealth. It landed in a remote forest outside Seattle, its outer hull quickly adapting to match the surrounding environment. From the hidden ship emerged 3 reptilian figures. They stood upright on powerful hind legs, their bodies covered in dark scales that shimmered with an oily iridescence. Their eyes glowed amber in the darkness of the forest. "Scan for human settlements," commanded Sarn, the Draconid leader. His forked tongue flicked out, tasting the air. "We need to understand what has the Vraxians so frightened." The Draconids had monitored the communications between Earth and the Vraxian fleet. Any potential weakness in their longtime rivals was worth investigating. Back on the orbital platform, Olivia had been paired with a young Vraxian scientist named Vex for what the Confederation called cultural exchange. Despite his obvious nervousness around Pancake, Vex's scientific curiosity had gradually overcome his instinctive fear. "So they have no hunting purpose at all?" Vex asked, keeping a careful distance as he observed Pancake playing with a toy Olivia had brought. "Some breeds were originally developed for hunting," Olivia explained, "but most dogs today are simply companions. They live with us, provide emotional support, sometimes work alongside us, but they're not weapons." Vex's scales flickered in a pattern Olivia had learned indicated confusion. "Yet you allow them in your homes, near your young." Olivia pulled out her tablet and showed Vex photos of children playing with puppies, therapy dogs in hospitals, and working dogs helping people with disabilities. "They help us in many ways," she said. "It's a partnership that goes back thousands of years." Vex studied the images with growing fascination. Commander Zaxtal would never believe this. In another section of the station, Major Patterson and Apollo were demonstrating training techniques for High Counselor Trelvox and several Confederation scientists. Apollo responds to over 50 verbal commands and hand signals, Patterson explained as the German Shepherd perfectly executed a series of movements. "The bond between handler and dog is based on trust and mutual respect." "Remarkable coordination," noted Trelvox. "Our historical records suggest that such predator species typically resist domestication." Ambassador Summers, who had been observing, saw an opportunity. "Perhaps that unique relationship is why humans have advanced as we have. We learned to turn potential enemies into allies." Meanwhile, on Earth, the Draconids had infiltrated a suburban neighborhood. Disguised in crude human clothing, they observed families walking their dogs in a local park. "This makes no sense," Sarn hissed to his companions. "These creatures are not weapons. Look how the small human offspring control them with simple vocal commands." His second in command, Krell, nodded. "The Vraxians' fear is based on ancient instinct, not reality. This information would severely undermine their position in the negotiations." "Exactly." Sarn's mouth curved into what passed for a smile among his species. "We must get this evidence to the Confederation immediately. When the Vraxians are revealed as fools, their influence will diminish." The Draconids retreated to their ship, unaware they had been spotted by a security camera outside a nearby home. Back on the station, an urgent message arrived for Major Patterson. He reviewed it quickly, his expression growing serious. "Ambassador," he said quietly to Summers, "we have an unauthorized alien presence on Earth. Non-Vraxian, non-Confederation. They appear to be gathering intelligence on dogs." Ambassador Summers glanced at Commander Zaxtal, who was still maintaining his distance from Apollo and Pancake. "If they discover the truth and reveal it before we're ready, the Vraxians might feel tricked and respond aggressively," Patterson finished. "We need to act quickly." Olivia, who had joined them with Vex, looked thoughtfully at the young Vraxian scientist. "Maybe it's time for honesty, but on our terms, not because we're forced into it." "I might be able to help," Vex offered hesitantly, "if we approach this properly." The next morning, tensions were high aboard the orbital platform. Earth's security teams had confirmed that the mysterious aliens, now identified as Draconids, had departed Earth with what appeared to be extensive recordings of dogs in everyday situations. "They'll expose everything," Major Patterson said in the emergency meeting. "We need to tell the Vraxians the truth before the Draconids do it for us." Ambassador Summers nodded gravely. "I agree, but how we do this matters. We can't risk Commander Zaxtol feeling deceived or manipulated. All eyes turned to Vex, the young Vraxian scientist who had spent the most time with Olivia and Pancake. His scales shimmered with nervous energy. "The commander respects scientific evidence," Vex said. "If I present my observations as research findings rather than as a correction to our beliefs, he might be more receptive." Olivia placed a reassuring hand on Vex's arm, careful not to startle him. "We'll do it together. Show him how Pancake has interacted with you, how Apollo follows commands because of trust, not fear." The plan was set in motion. They arranged a demonstration in the station's largest chamber, inviting all 3 delegations. Commander Zaxtol arrived last, his posture stiff with suspicion when he saw both dogs present. "Commander," Vex began formally, "I request permission to present my preliminary findings on Earth's canine species." Zaxtol's eyes narrowed, but he gave a curt nod. "Proceed, Scientist Vex." Vex activated a holographic display showing his recordings of Pancake and Apollo over the past days. "Sir, my research indicates that these creatures are not the devourers of our ancestral nightmares, despite physical similarities." The commander's scales darkened. "Explain." "They have been selectively bred by humans over thousands of years to enhance certain traits and diminish others," Vex continued, his voice growing more confident. "Most importantly, their aggressive predatory instincts have been largely replaced with social bonding behaviors." On cue, Olivia released Pancake from his leash. The corgi immediately trotted over to Vex, sat at his feet, and looked up expectantly. The other Vraxians gasped, some backing away. But Vex, with visible effort, reached down and gently patted Pancake's head. "The creature shows no aggression," Vex noted clinically, though his hand trembled. "It seeks social contact and positive reinforcement." Before Commander Zaxtol could respond, the station's alert system activated. On the main screen appeared a draconid face. "Sarn, transmission coming from a ship now approaching the platform." "Greetings, Confederation representatives." Sarn's voice was smooth and mocking. "We bring important intelligence about Earth's supposed weapons that Commander Zaxtol fears so deeply." High Counselor Trelvox stepped forward. "Draconid presence noted. State your purpose officially." Sarn's reptilian smile widened. "To reveal truth, of course. The creatures that terrify the mighty Vraxians are nothing but domesticated pets, harmless companions that Earth children control with simple commands." The chamber fell silent as all eyes turned to Commander Zaxtol. His scales had gone completely dark, a sign of extreme emotion among his species. Major Patterson stepped forward with Apollo at his side. "Commander, we were planning to explain this to you properly. These animals are indeed companions, not weapons. We never claimed otherwise. You've allowed us to believe." Zaxtol began, his voice shaking. "We allowed you to process first contact at your own pace," Ambassador Summers interjected smoothly. "When species meet, misunderstandings occur. We were working to bridge that gap with respect and care." On the screen, Sarn looked disappointed that his revelation hadn't caused more chaos. The mighty Vraxians, frightened of puppies, the Confederation should reconsider their standing. High Counselor Trelvox silenced the transmission with a wave of his hand. "Enough, Draconid. Your interference is noted and unwelcome." In the tense silence that followed, something unexpected happened. Pancake, perhaps sensing the emotion in the room, walked slowly toward Commander Zaxtol. Everyone watched, breath held, as the small corgi sat directly in front of the Vraxian leader and tilted his head curiously. Zaxtol stared down at the dog, centuries of genetic fear battling with the evidence before his eyes. "He won't hurt you," Olivia said softly. "He's just saying hello." With supreme effort, Commander Zaxtol extended one trembling hand. Pancake gently sniffed his fingers, then licked them once. "Fascinating," Zaxtol whispered, his scales slowly returning to their normal color. "Not a devourer at all, but a friend." "Yes," Olivia smiled. "Exactly that." 1 year after first contact, Earth had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The planet had been officially welcomed into the Galactic Confederation as its newest member, with a unique diplomatic status that acknowledged humanity's special bond with other species. At the newly constructed Interspecies Embassy in Geneva, Olivia adjusted her formal uniform and checked her reflection one last time. From a small bed in the corner of her office, Pancake watched her with sleepy eyes. "Big day, buddy," she told the courtier, who had become something of a celebrity across several star systems. "The Nelvorians are arriving for first contact, and everyone's nervous about how they'll react to dogs." As Director of Canine Alien Relations, a position created specifically for her, Olivia had spent the past year helping various alien species overcome their fears or misconceptions about Earth's dogs. Some, like the Confederation representatives, had quickly adapted. Others, particularly the Vraxians, required more time and carefully structured exposure therapy. A knock at her door revealed Major Patterson, now Colonel Patterson, with Apollo walking perfectly at his heel. "Ready for today?" he asked. The Nelvorians are reportedly even more nervous around unfamiliar species than the Vraxians were. Olivia nodded, clipping Pancake's special diplomatic leash to his collar. "We've come a long way since that day on my research boat. I think we can handle it." Together, they walked to the embassy's grand reception hall, where Ambassador Summers was reviewing final preparations with her staff. The room had been designed to accommodate various alien physiologies, with special attention to creating comfortable spaces for Earth's canine diplomats. "There you are," Natalie greeted them. "Our special guest just arrived. He's in the side chamber." Olivia and Patterson exchanged curious glances before entering the smaller room. Inside, Commander Zach Stahl, now Ambassador Zach Stahl, stood proudly in formal Vraxian diplomatic attire. At his feet sat a young corgi puppy with tricolored fur. "Dr. Ward, Colonel Patterson." Zach Stahl greeted them, his scales displaying the calm blue-green pattern of pleased confidence. "May I introduce Luna, the first Vraxian diplomatic companion animal?" Olivia couldn't help but smile. 1 year ago, this scene would have been unimaginable. "She's beautiful, Ambassador. How is the bonding process going?" "Challenging but rewarding," Zach Stahl admitted, looking down at the puppy with what could only be described as affection. "My staff thought I had gone mad when I requested her, but she has already changed many minds among my people." Luna and Pancake sniffed each other cautiously before beginning a playful greeting ritual. Apollo watched with dignified patience. "The Vraxian Exposure Therapy Program has already enrolled over 2,000 of my people," Zach Stahl continued proudly. "Many are now requesting their own companion animals." A soft chime indicated the Nelvorian ship had entered Earth's atmosphere. It was time to prepare for another first contact. In the main reception hall, representatives from 12 species gathered, each with their own fascinating story of how they had come to accept Earth's dogs. The Draconids had not been invited, their attempt to create diplomatic chaos having backfired spectacularly. "It's remarkable," Colonel Patterson said quietly as they took their positions. "One misunderstanding led to the fastest integration of a new species into the Confederation in recorded history." Olivia nodded. "Turns out our greatest diplomatic asset was right under our noses, or should I say, at the end of the leash." The massive doors slid open to reveal the Nelvorian delegation. Tall, willowy beings with iridescent skin that shifted colors with their emotions. Their leader froze upon seeing Luna, Pancake, and Apollo, their skin flashing a bright yellow that indicated alarm. Ambassador Zach Stahl stepped forward, Luna sitting calmly at his side. "Honored representatives of Nelvoria, on behalf of the Vraxian Empire, I welcome you. I see you've noticed our canine friends." The lead Nelvorian skin pulsed with confused colors. "You keep predators as companions. I once feared them as you do now," Zach Stahl said gently. "But I discovered something remarkable. Sometimes what we fear most can become our greatest source of comfort and understanding." As if on cue, Luna wagged her tail and gave a friendly bark. The Nelvorians, startled, but didn't retreat. Perhaps, their leader said cautiously, we have much to learn from each other. Olivia exchanged smiles with Ambassador Summers and Colonel Patterson. This was how it began, with curiosity overcoming fear, with misunderstandings giving way to new connections. And it had all started with one simple question. You mean this cute pup? 5 years after Earth joined the Galactic Confederation, the anniversary celebration was held on a massive space station orbiting Jupiter. Representatives from 32 alien species gathered for the historic event, many bringing their Earth-born canine companions. Olivia stood at the observation deck, Pancake's graying muzzle resting on her shoe as they gazed at the swirling clouds of the gas giant below. The once young corgi had become somewhat slower in recent years, but remained the face of what was now called canine diplomacy across the galaxy. Hard to believe it all started with you, little guy, she whispered, reaching down to scratch behind his ears. Dr. Ward, a familiar voice called. Olivia turned to see Ambassador Zax Tull approaching with Luna trotting confidently beside him. The once tiny puppy was now a full-grown corgi with a special collar bearing Praxian diplomatic symbols. Or should I say, Admiral Ward. Zax Tull added, noting Olivia's new uniform. After years of success with the Interspecies Diplomatic Corps, she had recently been appointed to lead Earth's first deep space exploration mission. Still getting used to the title, Olivia admitted with a smile. How are the new Vraxian settlements on Mars progressing? Exceedingly well. Zax Tull's scales rippled with pride. The environmental domes are fully operational, and the first breeding program for specialized Mars corgis begins next month. Who could have imagined that the species once most terrified of dogs would become their most enthusiastic adopters? After overcoming their ancient fear, the Vraxians had discovered they shared many traits with canines: loyalty, pack mentality, and adaptability. Colonel Patterson joined them, accompanied not only by the aging Apollo but also by 2 young recruits from the Canine Diplomatic Academy, a golden retriever named Nova and a border collie named Echo. The Nelvorian ambassador asks if you'll join them for the ceremonial greeting, Patterson told Olivia. Apparently, they've composed a song about Pancake and want to perform it as part of the official proceedings. Olivia laughed. How could I refuse such an honor? As they walked toward the Grand Hall, they passed the Earth Zoo exhibit, a popular attraction where alien visitors could safely interact with various Earth animals. A group of young draconids were cautiously petting a therapy rabbit, while their parents watched nervously from a distance. Even former enemies had eventually come around. After their failed attempt to disrupt negotiations, the draconids had gradually established trade relations with Earth, particularly interested in Earth's agricultural methods. In the Grand Hall, High Counselor Trelvox, now Supreme Chancellor of the Confederation, greeted them warmly. The stars shine upon our meeting, friends of Earth. The ceremony began with a historical holographic display showing that first encounter on Olivia's research boat. The audience laughed as they watched Commander Zax Tull's terrified reaction to Pancake's appearance. Few misunderstandings have led to such profound understanding, Chancellor Trelvox noted in his address. Earth's integration has transformed our Confederation in ways we never anticipated. Indeed, the impact had been tremendous. Earth's unique evolutionary history, where predator and prey species learned to coexist, had introduced new concepts of cooperation throughout the galaxy. The human-canine bond had inspired the Confederation to reconsider relations between historically opposed species. After the speeches, Olivia found herself alone with Ambassador Zax Tull on the observation deck once more. I've been meaning to ask, she said, watching Luna and Pancake play together. Do you ever regret how our first meeting went? Being frightened by a small dog. Zax Tull's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue. Fear can be a barrier or a doorway, depending on how we respond to it. My people chose to walk through that door. He gestured toward the stars visible through the massive window. Next month, the first joint human-Vraxian deep space mission launches, with both species and their canine companions working side by side. All because you asked. You mean this cute pup. Below them, Earth glowed blue and green in the distance, no longer an isolated world, but a central member of a vast galactic community. And it had all begun with a misunderstanding, a frightened alien, and one very ordinary Corgi who had unwittingly changed the course of interstellar history.